What is up, everyone? We are back Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central here in Chicago. But I'm here not with Gavin. Gavin is, playing golf at some charity event. Ditched us on the first Saturday where college basketball has the full spotlight. But thought that would be a good opportunity to bring in a guest here. Mike Collin from One and Done Sports. We've been chatting a bit offline about getting together for a show or two, doing a collab with RPS and your company. What's going on, man? Good to have you on. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how to find you guys?
Yeah, well, first, Steve, thanks for having me on, man. I'm glad we could do this. Hopefully we can get you on our show pretty soon. For those of you that don't know me, I know we have a lot of the same people, floating around the CBB DFS streets. But I am essentially what we call the captain of our ship over at One and Done CBB. We produce shows 2-3 times a week, typically DFS, but we're 365, man. So we cover the transfer portal. We do coaching interviews. Steve Alford, Mark Pope, Kim English, Jeff Capel. We've talked to all of them within the last couple of years. So we just try to stay locked in, love the sport, trying to grow the sport. One and Done CBB, YouTube, X, Instagram, wherever you follow social media, check us out, man.
Yeah, they do awesome stuff in the off season. I'm going to put the Twitter handle in the chat here. So good to have you on. We've got an interesting slate. I was watching your show last night. You guys did a great breakdown of it. We're going to go game by game, per usual. I think having you on, we were talking a bit before we went live, is going to be interesting because, when I'm on with Gav, we each play one lineup and everything, a bit different of a style than you do. You're playing the flagship GPP, so it's a bit different of a style, obviously. And I think that your approach is probably more aligned to this slate. Specifically, we have a $30 qualifier, which usually takes a bit more off the board type of plays. Before we get into games, why don't you talk a bit about like your style of play, like an example or two of what that means, like how you approach slates, other than what I'm trying to do, which is basically play the best lineup and have everyone beat me.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm pretty much strictly a tournament player, large field. You'll typically find me in there anywhere between 10, depending on how big the contest is, 10 to 20 lineups every night. But I do play the lottery. So you'll find me on the ladder. I'll probably have some lineups down there at the bottom, some in the middle, and on some good days I'll have some at the top. So just when I look at slates, I try to figure out who's going to be popular, like what's the word out there on the streets. I try to get some lineups that diversify, plays away from, so we'll talk about some of these guys today. Just the main plays, I want to get the guys that are sub 5% that are direct pivots off of those. So I do mix and match. I don't play identical lineups on anything. I'm all across the board trying to get exposure to different types of things and trying to overload different sides and then just trying to be wacky and quirky. And you were mentioning it earlier, man, like this slate right here is kind of one of those ones where it's like there's not a lot of clear line of sight, and sometimes that hurts me when there is, because sometimes you don't need to get too cute in the streets. But this slate right here, it's like I was telling you, before we came on the show, that I'd be surprised if we weren't saying like what happened here, like how did this happen? So this is the type of slate that hopefully I can see a top 5, top 10 type finish. But yeah, man, that's just kind of my style, and that's just kind of how I played for the last 4 or 5 years with CBB.
Yeah, it's just a bit different. So like I'm trying to play the most optimal thing because I'm in a bunch of winner take alls with 4 and 5 guys. So it is different, but I do think that your style of play lends itself to a slate like this where we have a couple of big favorites with big team totals with spreads that might be uncomfortable for a guy like me playing one lineup where you can really lean into a couple of these spots that we'll get to. It's an odd slate in a different way too. We've seen these Saturday main slates might be like 6 games at noon Eastern, 5 at 1, and they kind of come at us quick. But here it kind of feels like one of the Thursday slates where we have a lock every now and then, and we kind of have to, jive with the news as it comes. We've been pretty good at dealing with those slates. We saw it the other night on Thursday with the Illinois stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that it's going to be kind of a read and react type of slate because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different lock windows for 11 games.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Wild ride we're going on today.
So any thoughts on how you approach a slate like this as opposed to when all the games are locked in at the same time?
Yeah, this one I've got to stay by your phone a lot more today than typically on a Saturday because, like I said, you have multiple lock windows, and you just mentioned it, man. It's been a wild ride over the past week. It feels like we're just getting this random news, like 15, 20 minutes, and then it's kind of scramble mode. But what's weird about this slate is not in love, and I don't think you're very in love with what's up at the top of the board here as far as the price points and the plays here. There's not Braden Smith, Dickinson, Janai Broom. Like, where are the guys that are going to drop 50, 60 fantasy points? Like, they're not there, it feels like. So
to be fair, Dickinson's fucked me a lot this year. So
my God.
I feel so like
bad. It's been so bad. I feel
like I found all of his floor games.
Yeah, I got a couple of plays like that. One we'll talk about here in a little bit that I think hurt you the other night too against Cal. But you got to stay by your phone because things could pop up. And the problem is like we don't always have to follow the path of stars and scrubs, especially on this type of slate where I like the 6 to 7K tier a lot and that low 8K.
Yeah, I mean, my preferred is usually stars and scrubs if the slate allows it, but you have to let the slate kind of dictate how you play. And we have an interesting one here. One thing I'm adding this week is I'm going to be sharing our projections for each of the games here. If you want to join us, go to runpuresports.com. If you just want college hoops, there's a college basketball only sub that you can do as well. But yeah, let's get into it, Mike. We got 11 games. We're going to start with SMU at NC State. SMU 51st at KenPom. NC State 97th. DK's got this SMU minus 3.5 right now, 146 total. What do you see in this game? We start off with a couple of ACC tilts here.
Yeah, this one's kind of interesting, especially with that total 148. You got a lot of ugly games on this as far as game totals on the slate. So you're getting 75 implied for this SMU side, but they like to play a lot of guys, which super annoying. You look at kind of the matchup. NC State's been getting crushed from 3 in ACC play. So the expensive guys, Kevin Miller, 7,900, man. Boom bust GPP option. I don't know that I'm going to get to him even as a tournament type guy. I'm not in love with the price tag when he gets close to that 8K range. He's only shooting 33% from 3. I know he's gone off for 35, 40 fantasy points, so not going to completely eliminate him on this slate. There's just better spots in that high 7, low 8K range that I'm probably going to be rotating my exposure to. BJ Edwards, man, $200 cheaper. Like, that's just too expensive for him. He has to get 5+ stocks to pay this price tag off. Like, I'm not messing with that on this slate. The guy that I'm most interested in on this SMU side is Matt Cross.
Yep.
He's 7,500. Was awesome when he was, what was he, 5K a month or so ago. Obviously can shoot the 3 ball, 10% offensive rebounding rate. NC State's really struggling there in conference play. He has 35+ fantasy point upside. So for me, at least on this SMU side, man, like I'm probably not getting to the guards just because of the price tag and who's around them in that range. And then Matt Cross, obviously, I'm okay with him in cash and tournaments at 7,500.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of plays in the 7K range. I think Matt Cross is up there with the best of them. He, the games that he hasn't fouled, Mike, he has gotten there, and I think he's got upside here to be on the winner. NC State, pretty soft matchup defensively inside, not a great rebounding team overall as well. So, I think we have double plus upside for Matt Cross here. I think pretty clearly the best play in the game. You had mentioned Huntley Hatfield on your show last night, working his way back at 4.2. I think he's at least interesting, especially for like the $30 Q, right? If you don't want to play the same value pieces as everyone else. So if you see here, we've got BHH at 18 minutes. These are median projections here. He could easily play 14 or 24 here, and I wouldn't be surprised. We've seen this NC State front court kind of fluctuate a bit. So any thoughts on him there? I usually don't get to the NC State or the SMU guards. Like you said, we've seen BJ Edwards play well, but that's come with a price increase. He's priced around a lot of guys that I do want to play today.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this NC State side, kind of awkward. I mean, you mentioned Huntley Hatfield, 4,200. Like we have a stone cold lock value play today, right? So
yeah,
typically if you want to get to 2, you can play 6, 7 to 8K guys. So finding that second one, right, is kind of interesting for this slate. But man, like you said, the minutes could just be anywhere with this. I mean, coming off the injury, last game. Could he get 25? I think he's interesting at 25 minutes, right? But you're totally gambling there. I'm probably, if I'm playing, I think I have 12 lines in right now. I'll probably throw him in 1, maybe get to 2 of BHH, but it's not going to feel comfortable. This slate honestly doesn't feel comfortable. So that's kind of where I thrive is when the chaos starts to happen. So yeah, BHH kind of an interesting play, but I wouldn't be surprised if he played 14 minutes. And he kind of buries all the other guys. Middlebrooks, who I used to love as when BHH is out, love to jam him in, even though he's kind of screwed me over a few times. But if you're playing cash though, Jaden Taylor, man, like 6K, just a high floor, man, 20+ fantasy points in 4 straight, just high shot volume for this guy. I just don't see him, hurting you in a cash setting at 6K. So I just don't have much tournament interest outside of BHH. Even Marcus Hill, I'm just not there, man. He's just not an efficient player. He wasn't an efficient player at Bowling Green. I don't ever play him, especially when he gets up here in the 7,300 price tag. It's pretty ugly.
Yeah, I don't usually get to much NC State on slates. I think it's Matt Cross and possibly Huntley Hatfield here. Like if you give Huntley Hatfield 20, 22 minutes, he's going to start popping in some options.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, let's keep it moving. Only one game in that first window. Man, that just feels weird. 12:30 window starts with Pitt at Syracuse. Pitt 33rd at Ken Palm, Syracuse 122nd. Pitt's -8 here on the road, Mike. 150.5 total, first total over 150. I think we got 3 or 4 of them on this slate. The only news here, still nothing on Donnie Freeman. He's missed the last 5 or 6 games. I think he might, like you said on your show last night, have an eye towards the draft here. We've seen it happen a couple times with these guys where they just kind of shut it down. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that from a bad Syracuse team. We've got him projected out. What do you have for us in this game here?
Yeah, I mean, second highest total on the board here. So definitely have interest in it. I think it's kind of a weird spot here. Syracuse, they can't defend anybody, and I'm sure you guys have mentioned it a ton. Eddie Lampkin, he's just going to allow a bunch of fantasy points, whether you're a guard or a big. So I think Pitt's going to get quality looks here. I mean, Q's can't turn you over either. 341st in opponent turnover percentage. You got Lampkin there, a cone that you can just dribble around and get easy buckets or pick and pop. So, the thing you do love about Pitt is who's going to be on the floor for the most part. It's pretty much 6 guys, right? 308th in bench minutes. I mean, I like Jalen Lowe in tournaments, man. And I know he's he hasn't been the guy that he was at the beginning of the season. He crushed Cal on New Year's Day, and then he's just kind of been, in that mid-9 area and not really playable, at least, except playing the large field tournament. So I think he's kind of interesting, especially with this team total being at, implied 80 points on Ken Palm. So I don't mind, getting to a Jalen Lowe if you're playing 2 value plays. Ish Leggett, though, is probably going to be a little more popular because he's $1,000 cheaper. I've had him at Cash Core last night. I just don't see how there's a way where he really doesn't get to that 25, 30 fantasy point range. I mean, he takes a lot of shots. He has a decent assist rate. He's just on the floor for 35+ minutes. So these other guys, man, last night I was like, man, spin the wheel. And your boy's down here, GDG, who's a very popular topic on our show last night, man. Do you have any thoughts on what's going to happen with him? Because I know the starting lineup changed with double bigs and everything. What do you got with the rest of this? Because I really only have interest in the big guards and then obviously GDG if he's starting.
Yeah, I think for like how I play, I'm probably going to use him just kind of as a block, right? Because if you don't use him and he plays 30 minutes again, everyone else is going to have him in the winner take alls and stuff. So I think I'm going to use him there. I mean, it's guesswork, right? Like, they played a double big Clemson team last time out. Do they really need that against Syracuse here? We could see Dunn start. I think we could see both start, honestly, and I wouldn't be surprised. I was pretty conservative with his minutes here. I went with 20 because if you give him 26, he's going to be in every lineup. So
every single lineup.
This guy was in the mid 5Ks for a reason. He has good rates. I think if he starts, I think you're using him at least like on a main lineup. Outside of him, you talked about Lowe. Yeah, his price is still falling down. Like he was priced because Leggett was out for so long, and he got up to 10K because he was just eating all of the usage. I think he's a good tournament play. I don't think people are going to go up in the 9K plus range. So if you like any of these guys with the value, I think that's an interesting way to go on this slate. Him and Leggett are going to play nearly the entire game. Starling is off, kind of a weird game. I think he's interesting if you find yourself in that high 6K range. There aren't that many guys that we have projected over 4X on the slate, which is kind of odd for such a huge slate. So I think Starling, especially if you're playing like GDG and a Lowe or a Leggett, I think Starling is an interesting bring back on the other side, especially in the qualifier. Not much interest in Lamp at that price tag. Like we said, there's just a ton of guys in that 7K range that I really like, and Lamp is not one of them. So, Jair Davis is priced up a bit. We've seen his minutes kind of get pulled back a bit as they play more of the other center. Do you have any interest in him? Do you have any interest in him in the in like the Lotto or the $30 Q? He's 3,300.
He's 3,300.
We have him for 20 minutes here. At 20 minutes, he projects for what? I can't even read that. 13 DK.
Yeah, man. That even for me, this is a little much, man. Just seeing how he's, I mentioned last night, like a 67 offensive rating against tier 1 opponents. Like Autry seems like he wants to play him because it feels like he's looking, he's looking to next year, right?
Yeah.
20, 22, 21 minutes in the last 3. As I get down close to lock, and if there's like, I fall in love with the Lowe and maybe I want to play a Sorber or somebody like, maybe one other really expensive guy to kind of just be different. Cause you're, like you said, it's just a lot of people are kind of like, yuck, as soon as you get over 8,500 or so. I mean, something like this, you play him with Epps and, GDG, and all of a sudden, you're back in the 6K range. So, Maserovic, like, it's not going to feel comfortable. 1 out of 12 for me, and just to see what happens. I think he's more of a guy to kind of pay attention to as the season progresses, and probably spike him on a as he starts to get into the mid 20s as they move forward from their season. So, but I'm with you on Starling. Like, he's 36 shots in the last 2 games. What are we like?
Yeah,
he's just going to chuck.
He's going to chuck in a great total.
Yeah, exactly. So I got interest in him, but that's pretty much it. Which feels weird for the second highest total on the board here.
Yeah. With the Mastorovich guy, we've had the discussion a bunch in Discord lately, Mike, with guys like this. Ugusic from South Carolina. Yeah, just like guys who haven't been good fantasy point per minute players, but they're also freshmen halfway through their first season. It's like guys can improve, they can get better. I'm not sure if this is the guy that I'm buying that on, but he's at least in play just because of the context of the slate.
Right. And if news breaks, we're, just get off of them immediately.
Let's go to the other game in the 12:30 window, Georgetown, Providence. Cooley goes back to the dunk. This is going to be fun. That place is going to be on fire today. Georgetown 70th at Ken Pom, Providence 89th. Providence laying 1.5 here, 139 total. Looks like tied for the lowest or second lowest on the slate. News that I have here, Mike, is that I believe Mella and Cardet are both back here. They've had a full week off since that game last Friday. I projected everyone in here. What do you think about this game overall?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the kind of the Georgetown side. Thomas Sorber, like, interesting boom bust. Just mentioned him a second ago. I think he should crush here. Like I talked about it last night. Dixon had a nice game with them against Providence. Kalk had the 20 and 10 with 6 blocks. We know Sorber has 20 and 10 with 6 block upside at 9,800, and Providence isn't going to turn you over. So Georgetown should be able to get its looks. Providence is sub 250 in both steal percentage, opponent steal percentage, and opponent shot blocking rate. So this matchup, I kind of like Sorber as one of the better spend ups on the slate as a whole here, man. Sorber and then a Jaden Epps lineup is certainly interesting because I think everyone's just – you'd said 75% last night in our chat, and that would be absolutely crazy if he's not higher than that because I don't know what you're doing. It just happens
every time.
Yeah, I don't know what people are doing. Doesn't make any sense. Just click his name and just move on. Like even for me who plays off the wall sometimes, I might fade him on one just because we've seen, right? There's a stone cold lock and then all of a sudden what happened here?
We've seen, especially with him, he's come back and has gotten re-injured. So I think
a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah. I'm definitely playing him on every lineup. It's also a context of the slate. Like we don't have a ton of guys that are popping. So like he's popping so hard that my style of play, I just play these guys every time. Sorber, I think, is super interesting. Like you said, I think he's my favorite player above Dylan Harper on this slate.
Okay.
I think that he's an awesome play in this spot, despite being on the road. I think Cooley's going to continue to push max minutes on him and PV. And he just has upside to like beat everyone else on the slate by like 10. So he's been really good. He's really good defensively, which ties into the matchup.
Nobody can challenge him on this Providence side.
Yeah, I know. It's a pretty soft matchup. So I could see him crushing here. I think he's a really interesting play for the $30 qualifier, just because I don't think people are going to get up that high. The Providence side, like I said, I've got everyone projected back here. So it's a bit tougher. I think Mela is at least interesting. I wish he was a bit cheaper, but man, he was on a roll before he got sick.
Yeah, he was.
We were playing him in the 4K, 5K range. I'm sure you were too.
Mm-hmm.
So any thoughts on him and the other Providence guys? We have a good projection on Oswin. I'm a bit concerned with fouls in the matchup here, though. I gave him 25 minutes. He's been playing 30 plus if he doesn't foul. So if he doesn't foul, it's at least a decently scary fade. But I think I'm leaning towards the fade, at least in my main.
Yeah, talking about pre-show, asking you like, what do you do with this guy? Especially Melo's back in, right? Just kind of eating away a little bit in the front court. That's why I could see his minutes pushing back down to the high 20s, mid 20s.
Yeah.
Especially a defense against Sorber, foul issues. He's 5,400 though. That's in that kind of that weird range where it kind of fits perfectly with your high 7K guys, right? And playing Epps with them at GDG, and now all of a sudden you got all the 7K guys you want. So I do find him fascinating. It does take me off, Bensley Joseph, if Cardet's in, and, Melo and Cardet, right? If they're in, it just Justin Fernandez goes away, which was just awkward.
I think
if you clicked his name, that was weird. But
I think people are going to play him here. I think people are going to play him. I have him at 13 minutes. I don't see him playing if these guys are back.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be cautious with Oswin here. I probably looking at 1 to 2 of my 12 lineups. If it seems like he's going to be popular, man, I don't want any part of it. So,
I mean,
kind of come down to
he's a foul risk himself.
Yep.
5.5 fouls per 40. Sorber draws a ton and has been surprisingly elite defensively. I remember I went in on Kalk in the Georgetown game, and he just shit on Kalkbrenner the entire game. It was pretty impressive to watch. Any last thoughts here before we move on?
No, I think this is one of the games I have probably the least exposure to, but it has the Stone Cold Lock and Jaden Epps. A little bit of Sorber, a little bit of Oswin E, and moving on, man. Yeah.
I'm playing probably 3 lineups today, 1 main and then 2 others in the queue. I'll have Epps on all 3, and I'll probably have 1 Sorber here. All right, let's go to that 1 p.m. Eastern window. Only 1 game in this window. Mississippi State at South Carolina. Miss State 23rd at KenPom, 80th for South Carolina. Mississippi State land 7-ish on the road here, Mike. Lowest total on the slate, 138-ish. That line is coming down because Jamari Thomas, kind of ahead of schedule here, is going to return today. But Murray Boyles popped up questionable overnight on the injury report. I haven't seen anything. If anyone in the chat has seen anything since we've gone live on CMB, please let us know. But what are your thoughts on this game for DFS?
Yeah, it's probably the game that's going to get me in trouble as a large field tournament guy. One, I watched the Mississippi State South Carolina game in the first matchup, and it was just a beatdown. The SC defense has been falling apart in SEC play. You can't stop anything inside. There's a massive stock boost here for Mississippi State, who has guys that can produce a ton of stocks. I mean, you look at it like South Carolina giving up 17% opponent block rate, 15% opponent steal rate. And then all the Mississippi State guys are underpriced, like for what they're, from what we've played them at and for their talent, their skill level. I mean, Cam Matthews sitting here at 7,800. This guy that's been, mid 8K. So definitely double type upside with stocks, 30 fantasy points in 30 minutes in the first meeting. Keyshawn Murphy, man, sitting here at 6,800. He's a mid 7K guy for the most part.
You think so? Off the bench?
I think so, man. I mean, I play this guy in tournaments, right? Because I know that he can put up 35. And on this slate, if I have a guy at 6,800 that can put up 5X, like I'm in on it. And I don't think he's not going to be owned. So like
he is definitely the profile of your type of play, not my type of play.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, yeah, I'm not saying I'm jamming him in like half my lineups, but yeah, I have interest in tossing him in 2 or 3 of my 12 lineups. So, 36 fantasy points in 25 minutes against these. If CMB's out, right, that interior is just going to be super soft. So I like Matthews and Murphy. Murphy has some stock upside too, man. Josh Hubbard, 6,600. I mean, he's a 7,500 8K guy. He just has not shot well. 5 for 16, 2 for 13, making shots, 2 for 12. If he makes 7-8 shots, Steve, like he put up 30 fantasy points against these guys in 22 minutes. So I don't love the South Carolina team. Sorry, Lamont Paris, but yeah, man, I'm going to have a rotating exposure to Matthews, Murphy, and Hubbard on this thing, at least on this side. What are your thoughts on this Mississippi State side? That's going to get me into a lot of trouble in tournaments potentially. Yeah,
I really like Cam Matthews. I played him a bunch this year. Like you said, the stock upside's so good, and this is a good spot for him to have a ceiling stock game. He screwed me in that Kentucky game. What was it? 2 Saturdays ago? I ran a train on the night slate with my main, and I was in first with it until he had like 6 steals in the second half.
Yeah,
put up like 48 or something like that. But yeah, he is awesome, and he's also super safe, right? Like they've pushed him max minutes in these conference games. We have him for 36 minutes here. When a guy like him with his stock upside is on the court that much, it just gives him so much opportunity to spike a big game. So despite it being a lower total, he's the style of player that doesn't need a high total to crush. So really like Matthews here. Like you said with Murphy, like we only have him for 25 minutes at a median projection, and he still projects for 4X. So that just shows that he's got great upside. We have his upside at 39 points here. I think that's fair. And then on the Scar side, keep an eye on the Murray Boyles news. If he's out, I think we're going to see kind of a mess. Like they could start Jordan Butler. They could go small with Pringle at the 5 and just, play a bunch of these, these wings that they've had to play because of injuries like Igusic and Conyers and stuff. So I think it could be messy, honestly, if CMB is out.
Yep.
I think that could be a spot that people chase, being overconfident on what they think South Carolina is going to do in a game where they could score like 55 points, So with Thomas back, I think I'm pretty much off Scar. I'll take another look if Murray Boyles is out, just because so much usage is going to be opened up there. But this is Cam Matthews all the way for me. I think Hubbard will be on one of my 3 teams as well.
Okay.
Like I was saying last night, like he just hasn't shot the ball, especially on the road. But that's why we're getting this price tag on him. So.
Yeah, these guys are sick tournament plays. Like in this total, like it just feels like one of these guys is going to pop for 5X, and then pay us off in a tournament for sure. I don't have any interest in the South Carolina side, man. It's ugly over there on that side. Yeah, it just screams a game where like you're starting with 10 points from Cam Matthews because he's got 4 or 5 steals and a dunk, I think. Yep.
On the board already. All right, let's go to the 130 window. Really cool game here. Sparty is playing Rutgers at MSG, I believe. Sparty 13th at KenPom. Wow, they're really up there now. Rutgers 81st. DK's got the Sparty -5.5, 149.5 total here. The only news I'm seeing is Agbole is out for the season for Rutgers. That's going to open up
Oh boy.
some more front court minutes for us to get burned again. I'm sure you'll talk about that. But what do you think about this game? Playing at MSG is always cool. I'm sure this game will be on CBS or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really do anything on the Michigan State side, man. Like,
I hate this team.
I mean, me and you could probably check in today for Michigan State. Like, it's just one of those.
Look at the minutes I have these guys for.
There you go. Absolutely, man. It's disgusting. So I always cross, unless there's just like an egregious, 4K price tag on a guy. I think the GPP one I had earlier, had that Jackson Kohler game. Played him on one lineup because I was like, I can't fade him on everything, even though I just don't love the price here. So there's no interest on this Michigan State side. This Rutgers side is another spot. This is the slate where I wish we had a 10K to first, because there are some of the ugliest. You talk about Masterovich, and like it can get ugly with this front court, man. Like Somerville has to play. Like, I don't know if you were on it. There was a slate where his first start and he didn't do anything, like super tilting. I think it was
no, but I almost played him. I was close.
Okay, yeah, man. I'm like, man, there's just no way here. And of course he flops. So I think he's interesting at 4,700. I'm probably not going to get some. I usually like the kind of the off the wall plays. I'm looking for that second value piece to kind of play with my, like the Sorber, Caleb Love, like RJ Davis type lineup. Zach Martini at 3,600. Like, they're going to need to score some points, man. I know it's ugly, but every 3 at this price tag is essentially 1x. He's a guy that can make 2 or 3 of them. If we get just any kind of other production, they need his size too, because Michigan State plays a lot of big bodies in there. So they only got a couple of guys over 6'8", man. And, he's one of them. So obviously, I know you like Dylan Harper a lot. If the field's going towards Dylan Harper and the large field tournament, I'm probably steering the other way with the guys that are around the 8K range, the high 7K range. So that'll put me up against you if you're playing a lot of Harper today. And then I can't play 10 for Ace Bailey. Like not on this slate. Not on this slate.
No, I'm definitely Sorber over Bailey here if I had to pick. So with the Rutgers side, with that injury, he was playing, high teens minutes. So these, like I said, these are medium project. It's just like hard to give any one of these guys over 20 before you know what they're going to do. Like, we don't know what their plan is. I could easily see Martini playing mid-20s minutes here. It's just tough for me to put it on the site and have people jam him in, because if I give him 25 minutes, he's going to be in optimals, and then people will be pissed. They're like, you dipshit. Like, he played 9 minutes.
Yeah, he shot one for 4 with 1 rebound.
There's some guesswork here on the Rutgers side. I'm kind of inclined to wait and see, at least in a main lineup. It's not an easy matchup here up against Sparty too. Sparty will have a big crowd along with Rutgers at MSG. So, like on the Harper thing, I'm still deciding if I want to play him on my main. It's just on a slate where I don't think there are any, well, not any, but I don't think that there are a ton of guys who can go and get you 50. I think Harper can. We've seen him do it before the illness. And before he got sick, like, he was up at 9.6, 9.8. So I still think there's a little bit of meat on the bone with his price tag here.
He's just ownership, man. Like, he's going to be popular. I think he's definitely popular. It's not a great matchup, but he's also one of the only guys who can have the score that you need to win on this slate. So I probably wouldn't are you gonna full fade him or just no way. I just if he's gonna pop, man, and I think you guys have him at what do you have him projected?
4.4x.
4.4. Yeah, I mean
that's a big projection.
Right. So I like to get all kinds of exposure to stuff. So yeah, I'm not gonna. There's no way you can full fade him on this slate. Like I say, he's one of the guys that can get to 50. I mentioned off the top. So yeah, I'm gonna play him in a few. I just want to be underweight.
Yep. I have not decided if I'm playing on my main, but I'll definitely have him at least in one of my 3. Any last words here before we keep it moving?
No, man, just don't ever play Michigan State.
Yep, I'm with you there. All right, let's go to 2 p.m. window. Iowa State at Arizona State. Iowa State 4th at KenPom. Arizona State 55th. Iowa State laying 10 on the road here, 145 total. Mom Chilovich is still out indefinitely. But Arizona State's getting healthier here. The 4-star top 100 guard is back. Is it Sanon or Sanon?
I think it's
I don't know how to say
Sanon. Yeah,
Sanon.
just on Sanon. I have no
idea. From what I've heard, they have been taking it very carefully with him coming back, and they didn't want him to come back until he was ready to be almost full go. So let me change these projections here. I want to hear where you are on him. And then unfortunate that these ISU guys are priced up so much. Was jamming them in for the last week or so, especially Curtis Jones. What are your thoughts on this game here?
Yeah, I mean, the implied total on KenPom for Iowa State 77, so one of the higher team totals, but you're paying for it. You know, I don't want to pay for Jefferson in the 9K range. Now he's what, 10 over 10. So no thanks. I mean, Gilbert, I think he's kind of an interesting tournament play at that. So is Jones. They're both interesting, right? 77 implied total. Like, I'm not going to cross them off. Probably have exposure to 1 out of 12 of Jones, 1 out of 12 of Gilbert in that large field, and kind of see what happens because it's that type of slate. Sad to see what's happened to Lipsy. Just cash now. I mean, he's on the floor. He's just not asked to do as much as he was last year. So lost a lot of money.
He might not even be a cash play anymore.
Yeah, that's true, man.
He has games where he just doesn't touch the ball.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I don't want to use him in a tournament at that price tag. Heisey and all these other guys, Chatfield, who completely burned me when he got the start. It's weird on this Iowa State side. But you mentioned Sanon here, and 3,800, man, looking for that second value play. He's an elite 3-point shooter. I mean, at times he's 6 to 7K, and man can score 20 real life points. So I do have a lot. I think that news dropped during our show. I think somebody had put a tweet out or something like that. I think he came in and also let us know that he's back. So appreciate that. But and Jaden Quaintance, 8,900. He's kind of matchup proof, right? Like 38 plus and 3 straight. This front court it's attackable, at least from the way that I see it. I'm not afraid of Deshaun Jackson.
Also the way he gets his points is with like blocks,
right?
Rebounds. Stocks. It's not, he doesn't have to score 20 points to crush. And he had a bunch of foul games early in the year. He's gotten a bit better at that of late. Of course, I say that right before he plays Iowa State. I think
how much exposure are you getting to Iowa State, man? Like, this is a weird total for them.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about this game betting wise. I didn't bet anything here.
Okay.
I think Quaintance is interesting for the Q just because he can have a nuke stock game. Curtis Jones always live to score 30 real points. Sanon, I'm going to lean into being aggressive here. I've got him for 22 minutes. I really wanted to give him more, but I didn't want people who aren't following news and just plugging in projections to have him show up in 100% of lineups,
Right.
So I'm probably playing him on my, I think he's a risk that I'm willing to take. Gavin and I will always talk about when they're guys that we're trying to make decisions on, right? Like him versus the Syracuse guy. Who's
right.
going to be 1,000 more next Saturday? Is it the Syracuse guy or is it Sanon coming back from injury who was 6K beforehand? So 100%. I usually try to lean into that for decision making. It's like, when's the next time we're going to see him at this price? Epps is the same deal. So I think he's my favorite play in the game by far. I think he plays some BJ Freeman, some Quaintance, some Curtis Jones. Anything else here?
No, man. This is a spot though that I think you could see a Gilbert or a Jones be on an optimal lineup for the big one. So I'll jam one of them in every other lineup or so. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the 2:15 Eastern window. Interesting game to talk about here. Boston College at UNC. BC down to 219th at KenPom. Carolina's 32nd. Carolina's laying 19, 150 big total here, though. Carolina at home. News here, Strong's questionable, hasn't played since the 13th, but it was just an illness. I haven't projected in for now, Mike. I think that really hurts the upside, especially minutes-wise, of the BC guys. You'll see here, I was conservative with the BC front court. I think some people will play Vetting just because of the matchup here, but the projection doesn't love it.
Yeah, and Venning is not Renaud, and I mean, it is. I love attacking this front court of UNC, but one kind of ugly play down here at the bottom, Fred Payne. I don't know, 29 minutes last game against Virginia, 25 fantasy points. Just kind of interesting. I don't think I'm going to get to him, but that's pretty much all I was looking at from the Boston College side here. I'm all over this North Carolina. I'm sure a lot of people are, right? 85 implied team total from Ken Palm. Boston College, terrible defensively. They turn it over, so you can get some stock upside here. They can't protect the rim. They're giving up 39% from 3 and 56 from 2 in the ACC play. So this is a spot where North Carolina, man, they need a huge bounce back. We were talking offline, and, the blowout is a concern, right? But, Hubert Davis sometimes leaves his guys out there. They're up 16-20. They're coming off these ugly losses. I could see the same thing happening where they're not getting pulled off the court till 2 minutes, 1:30 left in the game. So, RJ Davis, Elliot Cadeau, Ian Jackson, man, all in this 7K range. I think you can play 2 of them. They all have 35, 40 fantasy point upside, right? I think RJ Davis obviously feels, pretty comfortable, just name recognition alone. But I think Ian Jackson is an awesome elite play here, man. He just needs to shoot better from the field. And the positive shooting regression is due, man. 4 for 19 in the last 2, 1 for 12 from 3 at 7,100. So all 3 of these guys, man. You have any interest on the BC side? And what are you doing with North Carolina?
No, I don't have any interest on the BC side.
Yeah.
It's an 11-game slate. I usually play teams like BC on smaller slates where there's less options. It's just like if someone on BC beats me at these price tags, I'm going to be fine with it. I think people will play Benning. He's just priced so close to guys that I really, really want to play. Like you're playing him over Ian Jackson, who you just talked about. Like they're basically the same price. So I'm definitely out on BC, especially with Strong back. I think that's going to muddle the rotation like you see here with the minutes. It's just really hard to project them correctly. Just not the style plays that I usually make. I think, like you said, Payne's at least interesting because he's a guard, and Strong coming back isn't gonna impact him too much. But they could easily just go back to playing more Deion Brown here, more right. Beadle. I just think there's a lot of ambiguity with the BC minutes to really lean into it on a main slate. Carolina, though, is super interesting. RJ Davis has been really good at home this season, except for the one time that I used him in the Cal game. But so that's my only concern with Davis is the games that they've really blown teams out. He'll kind of take a back seat and let Ian Jackson take 20 shots. I think if BC is able to keep this reasonable, I think RJ Davis has top scorer on the slate upside. I think he's an awesome tournament play. I'll definitely be playing some of him. I do prefer Ian Jackson, though, even though he projects a bit worse. I like him a lot. I just think in games like this, like I just said, where they're probably going to win comfortably. It's a get right game for him. I think that they need him going forward to kind of be more of like the alpha scorer. I mean, he's taken a ton of shots in conference play. It's just a perfect spot for him to bounce back against an awful team. BC is what, 235th in adjusted defensive efficiency. They're giving up like 37% from 3. So yeah, it's a great spot for tournaments for the Carolina guys. I was trying to.
Do you think RJ's going to be popular, like super popular, or do you think Jackson will be because of the price?
I think people are going to. I think they're priced close enough that people will click RJ. Honestly, on a slate where it's not like, we're playing a 10-5 broom or something where every $100 matters. I think people will see that they're priced close enough and click RJ. He projects better. He's got a better minutes floor. I really like Jackson though. It just feels like in these types of games, RJ could score 30 in the first half and it won't matter. But yeah, no, that's a long way of saying that I really like both guys, and they're pretty much my only interest in this game. I'm not going to play Cadeau between them. Try to make him work when they weren't giving him minutes, and then he absolutely smashes off of the slate.
Yeah.
Mike's asking about Van. Yeah, I mean, I like the spot. I just don't love the minutes and the price tag.
Strong too, yeah.
Yeah, I think Strong's going to eat into it enough where it's not like Venning's going to be playing 32 plus anymore. But we're running a little long. Do you have any last thoughts here before we move on?
No, yeah, we can move on to my Longhorns here.
All right, we got the Horns at 2:30 Eastern window. Big game for both sides here. A&M at Texas. A&M 14th at Ken Palm. Texas 39th. Texas laying 1 at home here. 141.5 total. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, Ken Palm has it at 137. I think this is gonna be a slugfest. Just having followed this team, having followed my rival Aggies here. Really, only interest would be Wade Taylor on the Aggie side for me. Price is interesting, right? But in a slugfest, kind of ugly, man. 13-3-3 at home in the first matchup. So not completely in love with it. It's in that 7K range where I like a lot of other guys. And on the Texas side, it's really Kaluma and Johnson. This is probably one of them could just absolutely surprise here on the slate. Kaluma obviously double upside with a little bit of stock ability here. I know it's a tough Texas A&M interior, and the rebounds can be hard to come by. And then Trey Johnson, they need him to score. Takes a ton of shots. I just think they're kind of interesting tournament plays, but I'm not in love with this game. I think this is going to be kind of one of those drag down knockout fights here.
Yeah, I actually took the under. So I agree with you there. I do think Wade Taylor's interesting. It's just another guy where it's like, hey, we come back, we're on the show next Saturday, and he's 8-4.
Yeah,
because he plays. I mean, if this game stays close, like we haven't seen him fully back up to max minutes since the injury. But would you be surprised if he played 35, 36 minutes here in a close game? No,
would not be surprised.
We've got his median at 30. But if you start to bump him to 33, 34, he's going to be an optimal. So I think Wade's an interesting play. It just seems like the type of game that he would play well in too. He hasn't hit a shot since coming back, Mike. Like if you saw what is his box since coming back? He shot 3 of 13 and 2 of 12, which has kept his price down. If he had hit any shots in those games, he'd be 8K here. So I think Wade's a really interesting play, especially for tournaments. I'm probably gonna be on Wade Taylor here. Trey Johnson, I haven't gotten him right. A bit too scoring reliant for my style of play. I think I'm going to be targeting more in like the pace up games where he can get some easier baskets.
Yeah.
Kaluma, not a guy I play, but interesting for tournaments. We see him pop for big scoring games every now and then. Any last words on this game? Do you think you guys win?
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, this is a rivalry that we've been waiting for these guys. We're waiting for them to come here to football next year. I'll be at the game. And yeah, man, we're gonna beat these guys. So I'm excited for this game.
I'm still bitter at Buzz Williams for leaving my school. So
there you go. Yeah, old Buzz.
No, he had to go back to Texas. All right, Kentucky at Vandy's next. Kentucky 18 at Ken Palm, Vandy 48. UK's laying 2. This line has come down, Mike. When I went to bed last night, it was 3.5, 4. 166 total. Highest on the slate by 15 points. As is usual with Kentucky games, we've seen them pretty routinely nuke overs in conference play, playing super fast. Andrew Carr's questionable here, but, coach has said, I can't get him to sit. He's just playing through a back injury. He's going to play here, but the minutes are down. What do you think about this game overall? I did lay the 2 with Kentucky in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously the game that everybody's going to try to figure out. How do you get, half of your player pool from here? I like the Kentucky side more. Obviously, you got Vanderbilt that just runs a wide rotation, and Vanderbilt hasn't really stopped anybody in SEC player. You know, 3-ball, they foul a ton. They don't really have anybody inside that can stop you. And this Kentucky team shooting 40% from 3 in SEC play. So for me, Lamont Butler, 7,600. I think he's a fantastic tournament play. What I loved and talked about last night was that he's taken 12 plus shots, 12 plus field goals in 3 of the last 4 games, which really, really, brings up his upside there. So, and raises his floor. So I think he's got 5X type ceiling. Let's take an Owe. I haven't gotten him right. Maybe I'm just stuck on kind of last year and that mess with Potter Mosier, but 7,400. I think he's an awesome cash play. Like, it just feels like he's just.
I couldn't believe how good he looked in that Bama game. He was awesome in that game.
Yeah, he's taking a real jump this year. And he hasn't been under 24 fantasy points since November. So I don't think I'm going to get to him, especially because I'm going to be playing Lamont Butler in a lot of tournaments. And then there's Amari Williams, who's $100 cheaper. And look, I get it. Like, almost 7 fouls per 40 in conference play. Like, it's just one of the craziest roller coasters you're going to ride. But man, if he touches 30 minutes, like, he could post 35 plus fantasy points. So
he can post 35 in 22 minutes. What do you mean?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Like, the guy's just awesome. Oddly enough, though, you look at like his production this year and it's, I'm surprised he hasn't had more games where he's just been gone completely bonkers. But
he can't
part of that's the minutes. Part of that's the minutes, right? So I have some interest in Jackson Robinson, man. 7,100. I know he's more shot dependent. I hate these guys when they start getting over 7K and they're shot dependent. But he's a guy that can fill it up, put up 25 real life points in this spot. And then Kobe Bryant at 4,800, man. He's like, he can hit 5 to 7 threes in this spot. I know he doesn't do much else, but it's just kind of an interesting play from this one. And then, Almanar sitting there at 3,700, man. Any thoughts on on that? Kind of a weird spot.
I tend to like to play these ancillary guys more at home. Mm-hmm. We've got Carr questionable. If he were to miss, then that changes things. Obviously, even like Brea has really shot the ball like shit on the road. He's shooting 54% from 3 at home. What do you think he's shooting on the road?
Oof, man. I mean, he's got to be. I think he's still in the high 40s on the year. So what is he shooting? Like 35?
26%.
What? Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Yeah.
Brea hasn't hit a shot on the road all season.
Wow.
Which you have to think is going to correct itself. He's not just a poor shooter on the road. He's just probably running bad. So I think he's a great game stack piece if you are playing the queue. He's not going to project well, but he can get hot in any game. I think, like you said, my biggest interest here is Lamont Butler, especially for a main team. He just seems so safe. What really unlocked him was them pushing him above 30 minutes in conference play here. Just like the floor ceiling combo is great. If you see on our projections tab here, he has a 48 ceiling. I think that's probably super high, but he just seems very safe on a slate where I think you're going to need to nail the 7K range. I'm definitely him over Owe, coming off the big game from Owe. Also, Butler had missed some time and was working back. I think that also helped Owe and Robinson a bit. I think both those guys are probably at the high point of their price tags, where I could see Butler get up to 8K after this game. So Butler and Amari Williams are my 2 favorites here. I mean, you mentioned it with Amari. I get the question all the time in Discord. It's like, well, if he plays 32 minutes, he's going to be top scorer in the slate. And I was like, yeah, we say the same thing with Sean Stewart, and then he fouls twice before the first media timeout. Wow. So just know what you're getting into with Amari. It's elite upside, but you can't bitch if he's on the bench for 2 fouls, because that it's like squarely in the range of outcomes, if not probable.
Absolutely.
So I'm definitely playing him on at least one of my 3, just not on my main, just because I can't stomach it for like a main lineup. What do you do with the Vandy side? I think Edwards will be popular. I don't usually play his style of player, just like a scoring reliant guy. Right. But if there's a game to do it, it's against Kentucky, where you just know that there's going to be a ton of possessions. He's live to take like 20 shots in this game. Yeah,
he's absolutely live. We just saw that, right? In the last game. Man, we're working through it last night on this side, and you just don't know outside of Hoggard, like, like who's floor, right? Like, it's just so bad for some of these guys. McLaughlin's interesting. I don't know why they're not playing him more, man. Like, the rates are awesome, like inside outside game, great rebounder. Like, At
Yeah, I
7K,
mean,
he's interesting for return to large field tournaments, man.
yeah,
So,
I mean, this coach has always played a pretty deep
yeah,
rotation,
JMU, yeah.
Byington.
Yeah.
So,
Byington over at JMU, yeah, playing a bunch of dudes, except for Terrence
I
Edwards
mean,
getting 30 plus.
also, I don't think that you need a bring back. Like, I could
I don't think you
see
do either.
Kentucky winning this game handily and none of the Vandy guys getting there. I could see this game being close and none of the Vandy guys being on the winner.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in 2-0 stacks on this side, and maybe
Yeah,
a 3-0 if Carr sits.
I think I'm going to be heavy on the Kentucky side, probably avoiding Vandy for the most part. I think Edwards going to be pretty popular, so I think that's a good fade in the queue. He
Yeah, I'm
goes
fading.
4 of 15, and you're golden.
Yep.
Which happens to the guys that I roster all the time. So it is possible. Mannon's going to pop a bit. He's like a discount version of Amari Williams in that he's going to foul, but his rates are great. So you can mix him in if you want, but I think he's a bit overpriced for his downside. Any last words here before we move on?
No, I think I'm fading Edwards today because I think he's going to be people are going to want to get somebody on this side because of this total and this slate. So
yeah,
that's just me, man. I'll ride with it. If he goes off, then he goes off, and I'll move on.
Yep. All right, let's go to Colorado and Arizona. Beatdown city here. I laid the 15.5 with Arizona. I usually don't lay big spreads, but man, I hate this Colorado team. Arizona, I think, has found something with this new rotation, which is pretty frustrating for us in DFS. But they're just getting a lot of athletes out there in waves, and I think Arizona puts the boots to Colorado here. Colorado 98th at Ken Palm, Arizona 16th. Like I said, they're laying 15.5, 150.5 total. So big team total on the Arizona side. What do you like here?
I'm crossing off Colorado. 11 guys checking in the last couple of games. Like, no.
Yeah, everyone healthy.
Total. Yeah, cross off. Caleb Love, 8,300. Here we go, man. Anytime he's under 9K, like I just play him. So especially when they have these, they always have these type of team totals. Just absolutely nuked Oklahoma State. Boom bust tourney option, man. He's my type of play. Jaden Bradley, sort of interesting at 6,800 for me. Big minutes, man. He's playing big minutes and blowouts. Like that, winning or losing, he's just out there. So definitely interesting. KJ Lewis, stock upside, right? I think he's kind of interesting because I don't think anyone's going to touch him at 5,900. So for a tournament, he's slightly interesting in that. This forward rotation is crazy, man. Like I want to like Vasar, but the price has ticked up, and Trey Townsend, I want to play him because the price is way down from where he was at the beginning of the year and for what he did to Oakland last year. But it's just hard to figure out which one because you play one of them and it's all of a sudden Toby Awaka randomly doubles every one out of 8 games.
Yeah,
so,
whenever he doesn't foul. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, this is the spot that, like, if I were playing a bunch of lineups, I would be rotating these non-expensive Arizona guys. I could really see like an Awaka, a Vasar, a Carter Bryant, Townsend, guys like this being on the winner today. Here you see they're all around 20 minutes. Like we said, these are median projections. These guys are going to fluctuate based on fouls and a bit of a hot hand too. So would be frustrating for like a main lineup, but these guys have big upside within their minutes. And if you just get a guy to pop for 25, 26 minutes, very, very live to be on the winner. So I think they're really good tournament plays today.
Also good stacking partners with Love too in a tournament. So yeah, I'll have some exposure to these guys for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm off Colorado. I think Love is an interesting tournament play. On a main, it's going to be hard for me to click him over Dylan Harper just because of the spread and just how condensed the usage is for Harper. But for tournaments, I think Love is a great play with this team total. People like me be scared to click him on a main. So
leave it to me, my friend.
I mean, it's true. It's just a different style of play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'll probably have Love on one of my 3 today. All right, let's go to the last game here. We're running a bit over time, but that's fine. There's no show after us today because college basketball has the spotlight. Georgia at Florida. Georgia 37th at Ken Palm, having a great year, Mike. Florida up to 5th. Florida land double digits here, 11.5. A lot of points here. 148.5 total. You had talked about the total last night. I want you to mention that as well. But the big news here, looks like Micah Hanlockton was cleared medically by the school. Interesting situation because he's got a medical red shirt if he wants to use it. So I don't think, I mean, this is more of like a big picture for Florida thing, but really interesting because he's awesome. And if he burns his red shirt, man, this team's got crazy, they had crazy upside already, but just adding him be huge. So wait and see on that. But yeah, what do you think overall this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's hammer time on this one. So what I like to do is when the slate comes out, I go look at the slate. Myself, I like to, as a tournament player, I'm like, okay, what do I think the totals are going to be? I thought this would come in closer to 150 when I first saw it. Florida at home, love to push the pace, right? Georgia ticked up a few in conference play as far as possessions. Then you go to Kim Palm, and he's like, Kim Pomeroy's at 145. Vegas is closer to what I'm thinking. So there's a wide range of outcomes in this game, which makes it a perfect tournament play all throughout this game here. And it's really Newell for me, 7,600 on the Georgia side. The Georgia rotations have been pretty annoying, 10 guys playing. But I had him the other day. It was like 3% on a main. I think I got second on a Saturday slate. So, I mean, it just has awesome rates. I get, tough matchup, right? But Florida's not immune to giving up some fantasy points to front court guys here, at least in the last 4 games. So we've seen Kaluma double-double. Mark Mitchell's been pretty good. Diarra had 17 real-life points. CMB had a decent game, 8 assists. So, Newell, interesting at 7,600, man. Demery's there. Demery, whatever we call him, Silas.
Silas, yeah.
Yeah, Silas. I don't know, man. Just probably not for me because I want to jam in one of these Florida guys in a hammer spot, man. I know you talked about it yesterday. I was like, why is this total not closer to 150? You're like, solid Georgia defense, right? Holding teams under 30% from 3, but they're on the road here. There's actually stock upside for if these guys are not shooting well on the Florida side because Georgia's giving up a 14% steal rate and a 16% shot blocking rate. So, look, they're going to run these 4 guys into the ground: Clayton, Condon, Martin, Richard. I love Clayton for tournaments. I love Elijah Martin for tournaments. I have not gotten him right. I haven't played him a lot this year because I just FAU, right?
Was FAU just good because of Elijah Martin and not because of Nathan Davis?
That's the thing. Yeah. My top 5 put at John L. Davis number 1. Like, that was a mistake. Elijah Martin, I think he's a sick tournament play. I'm not going to play Richard, even though awesome game.
Definitely not playing Richard.
I'm just not playing Richard. Condon, he's my style of play. I just probably not doing it on a forward because I like a lot of the guards in this like high 7 in the forwards. I think that are interesting or kind of up there in that like a Sorber. So I don't know, Condon weird, but man, I think for a hammer, getting one of these guys, I mean, they could pop off for 40 plus fantasy points and you pass up some people for that top prize.
Yeah, I think Clayton and Martin are sick plays for the qualifier. I'm going to be playing some of them here. I don't know. I get a feeling that after Florida kind of sleptwalked through the South Carolina game, I think this might be a hammer spot at home where they put like 80 plus on Georgia here. And if that's the case, you're over hits and these guys are going to be in play. If you do want to bet that over, I would wait until like right before lock because it's going to come down because people will steam it towards the Ken Palm number. So
right.
You'll probably be able to get like a 147, 146 and a half. It looks like they're going to wait and see on Hanlockton per some of our guys in the chat who are Florida guys. So that doesn't change any minutes here. It probably solidifies 30-ish for Condon. I just kind of prefer the guards here. I think it's a guard-driven team. We've seen like I've played Condon more than the guards, but that's because they've been 1,500 apart, not the same price. So I prefer Clayton and Martin here. Asa Newell, I think, is main lineup viable. He's just like so safe to not burn you. Even the games where he like shoots like shit in the first half, he just gets there because his curls are reliable and they get a huge pace up here. It's a big game. So Newell, obvious best play in the game. Do you like any of the cheaper guys? I think Cyril's at least interesting for tournaments. He is massive. If you haven't watched a Georgia game, turn it on, and you'll be able to pick out who Cyril is right away.
Yeah, man. Where they get this guy, man? Yeah, he's interesting for tournaments. I will probably get him in one or it's tough because you have GDG, right? Who you've talked about. So it's like he's an awesome pivot. GDG starting, right? Like, so I don't know that I want to get too crazy with him because the minutes cap, right? And if GDG starts, good. Yeah, but the rates are so good.
I think he's interesting, and like if anyone fouls around him and he plays 18, 20 minutes, it's huge, especially in the last game. So, all right, that's it. We went through all 11 games. Awesome slate here. We have to go and do our own lineups. Mike has to do way more than I am. I can be on the treadmill doing my 3 lineups on my phone. But yeah, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, shout out your socials and your channel, because we've got a bunch of people that weren't watching it at the start of the show.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on X, which do most of our work here, at mcholland34. I write for drroto.com, submit power rankings for college basketball. We do transfer portal big boards. We interview coaches. Our one and done CBB channel is growing. I think we're over 1,300 subs. So you guys can head on over, hit the like and subscribe button. We're covering DFS probably 2 to 3 times a week. Hopefully we'll have Steve on pretty soon to get like a live before lock on, maybe like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Huge slate there. But yeah, man, just appreciate the time today. If you guys can go out there and follow, if you're not already, we would appreciate it. And we're just trying to grow the game, man, and have a lot of fun while doing it. So this is going to be a fun slate, man. I know you're probably going to be like, what the hell's happening in this slate? But I'm teed up for some random plays here. Yeah,
definitely go follow Mike and one and done. Like he said, it's for building the game, working together helps out the CBB DFS community as a whole. More content reaches more eyeballs, more people play. The more content out there, the better, I think. So yeah, no, it's an interesting slate. Any like final thoughts on the slate in general? How you think you're going to play it? Anything like that?
Yeah, man, you just lock button Jaden Epps, right? And then just that, like you said, rotating that 7K exposure, 7 to low 8K, right? Your RJ Davises, your Loves, your Jacksons, getting up to Harpers, and finding that second value piece because you have some risk there with GDG and guys like that. So luckily, I play enough lineups to where I can kind of get some exposure and do a couple of wacky things, but. I think overall, finding the right guys in the Kentucky game, obviously with that team total, is going to be a huge part of the slate. And then the hammer game, I think, is super interesting with those Florida guards that we talked about.
Yep, I agree with all that. We just got news before we sign off. Murray Boyles is going to play, so we're good there. For the RPS members, my core will be up in a couple minutes. I'll be in Discord all day answering questions and posting starters, reacting to news. If you're not a member, go over to runpuresports.com. Use code RPS15. Gets you 15% off your first payment. We have all sports for one price, but we also now have single sport subscriptions. We have a bunch of people in the Discord who are college hoops only. So if you have any questions, just shoot me a message or a DM on Twitter, and I'll get you in there. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, Mike. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Man. It was a lot of fun, man.
Hopefully Gavin's in the woods, trying to find his ball right now. So, we'll see. I'm interested to see what he plays because he didn't watch the show. He probably didn't look at the slate. He's just gonna.
That's a winner right there.
He's just gonna fire in the stone nuts in the $30 drunk as hell on the golf course. So
there you go, man.
Gavin,
good luck to you and all the RPS crew, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, we are out of here. I will see you guys next week.